We're back on page 189, and we're doing volume of pyramids. And volume of pyramids, you need the apex height. You need the apex height. And what did they give you? They give you the slant height. So they're giving you the information that you don't need, or don't want, pardon me. So there's a shortcut for Pythagorean theorem for the short side. So solving for a short side, and you can jot this down, short side Pythag, it's like a little shortcut, okay? So let's call it A. A stands for one of the shorter sides, A and B, okay? Stand for the short sides. You square root like this. Some of your calculators, like if you borrow mine, you need to input a bracket. So don't forget bracket. And then as long as you put the big number first, the hypotenuse, subtract the small number. And in this case, remember that the other small number here, it's half of this length, 23. So half of 23 is 11.5. So 11.5 goes there. Okay, is everyone okay on this? And then square root, and then there you go. You'll get your short side. Okay, so that's the short side Pythagoras shortcut. Now, if you want the long side, it's just going to be this. A squared plus B squared, close the bracket. Okay, so this is for the long side. And these are shortcuts that you can jot down on your formula sheet. On the yellow sheet, there is a spot where there's Pythagoras. You could just jot those in. Calculator shortcuts, you get Pythagorean theorem every time. Right here on your sheet, you could just jot down the two shortcuts. Okay? And depending on your calculator, and again, I'll put them on the whiteboard here for you as well. So solving for a short side and solving for a long side. And put in brackets depending on your calculator. And you get the Pythagorean theorem every time. Okay, so for this first question, I think you get about 15 or something. Does anybody have it? 15.12. Couple decimals is just fine. And then you can jump into the volume formula, which is 1/3 LWH. 1/3 times 23 times 23 times H, which you just solved for, 15.12. All right, so 23 times 23 times 15.12 times 1/3. And I'm getting a volume of like 2666.16. And this would be cubic inch, or inch cube, however you want to write that. Cubic inch or inch cube. All right. Okay, so for part C here, it's identical to what we just did, except there's a small curveball. Can anybody identify the curveball? Feet in inches. Okay? If you ever plan to be, you know, any type of constructivist person where you produce things, you definitely need to know feet inch. In every foot there is 12 inches, thank you. So 2 feet would represent 24 inches, just like that. Okay? So let me just blow up this triangle a bit. That's inside this pyramid. Okay? 24 inches is the slant height. You're trying to solve for the height, and they gave you 9, so half of 9 would be 4.5. Okay, so there's your There's your triangle that you're working on. If you do the shortcut for Pythagoras, what does it look like? Open up your square root. Tristan, start the bracket. Which number goes first, 24 or 4.5? Big number goes first because you can't square root negative, so you got to put the big number first. And then that'll solve for h. Okay? So 24 square minus 4.5 square. You forgot to square root maybe? Because that's a crazy number. 23.57. The number shouldn't be bigger than 24. 24 is your hypotenuse. So maybe you forgot to square root back there. So 23.57 should be what it is. Now that's the height. I like that little fist bump. Yeah. And then you go into this formula, LWH. LWH with a 1/3 at the front. So 9 times 9 times the number we just found. That would be the LWH, and then you just basically divide by 3. 9 times 9 times that number. 636? All right, 0.5. And that is going to be cubic inch. Okay, because we switched into inches. And with the bottom question, there should be no issues whatsoever. Identical. Okay, so we're going to move on. You guys need that for a minute to copy? Right, so where are we headed next? Volume and capacity of cones. That's next. Alright. So the cone is similar to the pyramid. In which sense? How is a pyramid and a cone similar? It has a what? Pinnacle? It goes right in your eye, this thing, right? What does it go to? What's it called? A point? Point is good. What's another word for the point? Apex. So this one has a curved side. This one has just triangular faces, right? But it's similar. So this one goes with the cylinder. A third of a cylinder. Good. And this one's a third of the prism. Yeah. Good. So if you look at the cone formula and if you look at the cylinder formula, they're basically the same thing, except for a 1/3. That's where we're headed next. So there's the formula for the cylinder, and then basically just divide by 3. Okay, so you guys can write this formula like this. Okay, or you can go like this. 1 divided by 3 at the beginning, and then pi times radius squared times h. Okay, so I'm just like, I like to write it how you would put it in the calculator so that there's no confusion there. A little tired, Caitlin? Big day today? Oh, handball made you tired? Alright. Okay, so what do we have here? Paper cup in the shape of a cone. How much water could the cup hold? So notice that after they do this calculation, they convert this to milliliters, and that's how much cup it would hold. I would go straight from centimeter cube into milliliter. Alright. Find the volume of each figure. So for these questions, we don't care about the capacity, just the volume. What inches is the, I just said it. What unit is the double tick? Inches. And be careful when you're doing these questions. It's just like for the pyramid. In order to find the volume, you need apex height. So always just double check that they've given you the right height. You need the apex height. And have they done that in part A? Yeah. So basically it's pi r squared times h, and then you divide by 3 at the end. Or some of you or can put the 1/3 at the beginning? What do you guys like? The 1/3 at the beginning? Doesn't matter? Some of you write it like this, 1/3 pi r squared h. Either or, okay? So for the first one, r is 5. You literally just type this into your calculator. First one I got 379.6, and this would be cubic inch or inch cube. Seven B, you have two cones sitting flush on the base. One is inverted. The only thing that's different about these cones is the height. Good. The circles are the same. The circles are flush. So, and when you're doing total volume, what do you need to do with these two volumes? What do we do with them once we get them? Add them up. I've seen some people on the quizzes just calculating them separately and then leaving it. So make sure you're adding them up. So just V1 and V2. And it'd be 1/3 pi r is 6 times h. 1/3 pi r is 6 times h. Get those two answers and then add them up. And for part C, it's identical to part B, it's just a different shape. So the exact same thing, just with a different shape. So V1 would be 1/3 pi 3 squared h, and V2 is just a cylinder, so pi r squared h. Get those two answers and of course add them up. So nothing too crazy there. Do you guys agree? Is volume easier than area? Say yes, because it is. Volume is easier than area, okay? All right, number 8. This is a algebra question. When they ask you to solve for one of the dimensions, like height. Okay. So with this question, identify what shape they've given you, cone, and they've given you volume. So right away, you know which formula to write down. 1/3 pi r squared h. Then it says what is the height. So if I was you, I would put a box around that. What is the height? This number 4071 is the volume. And they've given you the radius. So what you can do, and I'll highlight it, you could figure out this thing in pink here. Figure out that thing in pink. What is that? 1/3 times pi times 12 squared. I'm getting like 150.796. And you still have h next to it. So it's 150 point something times h. So how do you get rid of that? Divide it on both sides. And you will solve for h. So 4071.5 divided by that answer. 26.9999. It's just 27. It's 27 millimeter. Now with number 9, they're giving you a slant height. Okay, so let's draw this. Draw in your cone. H goes to the middle. This is H. Here's radius R. And here's slant. So slant is 15. Radius is 8. And what does it want? Determine volume. So volume is 1/3 pi r squared h. We don't have h. Okay? What do we have? The radius and the slant. What shape does this make? What kind of triangle? Right angled triangle. Square angle. Good. So you have this square angle right there for a right angled triangle. Are you solving for a long side or a short side in the Pythagoras? Mustafa. Pen active. I know I'm putting you to sleep here. You should have your headphones out too while I'm talking. Both of them. And you should be writing. Did you get a pencil from your neighbor? Alright, pick it up. So this is a short side or a long side Pythagoras? Short side. So which number goes first? 15. Take away 8. Square them. Square root it. Getting like 12.688. This is h. Now you can do your volume calculation. Okay, I'm getting like 850.4, and this would be cubic centimeter.